Hi everyone, welcome to Leisrealtalk. Sorry to keep you waiting. I tried to fix my camera, but it didn't work. So I went back to my old camera. The resolution isn't as good, but at least you can hear me okay, right? All right. Well, I hope your weekend has been good so far. Yes? Okay, good. I have said that it's getting more difficult to talk about China. Why do I hear this echo? That's probably because I didn't close the curtain. That's okay. It's getting more difficult to talk about China because the country is plagued with chaos that cannot be studied analytically. I thought about tonight's live stream and I picked three recent events that I think have future ramifications. Um, and so I'd like to talk about them. The first is anthrax. Before COVID-19, anthrax was the disease most often associated with bioweapons. Recently, China has an outbreak and may be covering it up. Secondly, I want to talk about a sex scandal that has been the talk of the nation, which revealed the CCP. It shows how paralyzed and dysfunctional the local governments have become due to corruption. And last but not least, I want to talk about a brave young man from Hunan who's willing to sacrifice himself for the betterment of his people. Um, we'll hear him speak. All right, so first things first, anthrax. Now, before COVID-19, anthrax was the disease most often associated with bioweapons due to several factors. One, durability. Um, Anthrax spores can survive in harsh conditions and environments for long periods. And number two, ease of production. The spores can be produced and stored relatively easily. The third is high mortality rate, um, particularly inhalation of anthrax. The pulmonary anthrax in particular is highly lethal if not promptly treated. Um, and then the last one is difficulty in detection because its initial flu-like symptoms can delay diagnosis and treatment. And historically, countries such as US and the Soviet Union and others have researched and developed anthrax as a bioweapon. During World War I, reports have shown that Germany might have used anthrax to infect livestock intended for Allied forces. During World War II, the UK and the US conducted tests using anthrax. The UK tested anthrax bombs on, I think the island's called Grenard Island, which remained contaminated until it was decontaminated decades later. The Soviet Union developed and stockpiled anthrax weapons, and a notable incident occurred in 1979 when an accidental release of anthrax spores from a military facility caused numerous civilian deaths. And the US, the most famous was the 2001 attacks, in which letters containing anthrax spores were mailed to media outlets and congressional offices, causing 22 infections and 5 deaths. This incident, this case was never solved because the main suspect in the case, Dr. I think Bruce Ivan, a microbiologist at the US Army Medical Research Institute of Infectious Diseases, committed suicide in 2008. So that's just the historical background of anthrax, and that's why when we heard this word, we inevitably think about some kind of a bio attack. So recently, the Chinese are alerted to an outbreak of anthrax in Shandong. Chinese government's lack of transparency in handling the cases has increased people's fear that something bigger is coming. On August 1st, here's the, let me make this bigger. What is the, oh, this is better. So August 1st, an official announcement purportedly from a company called Shandong Lianyuan Holding Group circulated online. It stated that an anthrax outbreak at a livestock farm um, in Qijing Township, Yanggu County, Shandong, had caused deaths. The notice gave the symptoms of infection and advised people to seek medical treatment promptly if they have the symptoms. It warned people against consuming beef or lamb and advised them not to travel to Qiji Township and urged people to use personal protection such as wearing a mask. The notice asked the management personnel to communicate this information downward to all staff. And the notice immediately sparked concerns on Chinese internet. In response, the Qiji village or township committee initially refuted the rumors, stating that all online claims are false and no deaths occurred. But they do confirm that over half a month ago, some cattle were indeed sick and were burned and buried with no human transmission. A representative from the above-mentioned company, Lianyuan Holding Group, also stated that the announcement that circulated online was fabricated and fake, and they had reported the case to the police. However, the same afternoon, a staff member from the Infectious Disease Prevention and Control Department of Yanggu County confirmed cases with a local paper called Xiangyang Morning News. And it says, we can confirm infections in the town of Yanggu, and there are cases in other towns as well. When asked about human infections, the staff member said, the impact is still unknown as the leaders are currently in a meeting. I think they will, this sounds ridiculous. I mean, the impact is unknown as the leaders are still meeting. So the leaders would decide what the impact is. So for now, he said, we can only say that an investigation is underway. But the news kept spreading. The next morning, on August 2nd, which was yesterday, China's state media, CCTV, this is very surprising. CCTV reported the outbreak. I mean, how long did it take for CCTV to report COVID or SARS, right? It took so long. So in this case, I mean, they acted fast. To me, that indicates severity of the outbreak. So CCTV stated that as of 10 a.m. of August 2nd, 5 farm workers who had direct contact with the infected cattle were diagnosed with cutaneous anthrax. I mean, it's skin. It's skin type of anthrax, showing mild symptoms and all being isolated for treatment with no other infections detected. Actually, oh, you can ignore the text on the right. You gloriously ascended the throne yesterday. Democracy died today. No, that's not the translation. Sorry, it's supposed to be deleted. I don't know why I left it there. It has nothing to do with this announcement. Please ignore that. It was from a previous slide. Oh my goodness. So yeah, this where was I? You gloriously descended. Okay, so yeah, the CCTV reported, and the report claimed that it didn't find. It said that okay, this report claimed that uh, the local government had paid high attention to the cases and immediately closed the farm and killed all the animals at the farm and disinfected the farm and nearby areas. It claimed that it didn't find any other infected animals and that no contaminated meat products had entered the market. Meanwhile, they have been tracking people who have contact with the animals, tested and quarantined them, and found 5 patients who have anthrax, but with mild symptoms. And no other infections were found. So the officials made it sound like things are under control. And the end of this announcement said cutaneous anthrax is contagious disease transmitted between animals and transmitted between animals and humans, and it's treatable and preventable. It's extremely rare that it's transmitted from human to human. Even though it sounds like it's trying to downplay the risk of anthrax, but people actually reacted to the words treatable and preventable because the ramification of those 2 words remind people of the lockdown and vaccines, right? Which people are scared of. So they wonder if another wave of crazy um, virus, I mean, in this case, bacteria, is coming, and then they're subject to lockdowns again. Anthrax is considered highly contagious, not because it spreads from person to person, but because its spores can be easily transmitted through the environment. These spores can survive in soil, animal products, and on surfaces for long periods. And when humans or animals come into contact with or inhale these spores, they can become infected. And the spore's resilience and ability to disperse through air, water, and contaminated objects make anthrax a serious public health concern. So, judging by a notice issued by the local public health authorities, there are just some, various. So, yeah, this one I circled it for you, the paragraph. Um, So this was basically a local public health authorities asking local agricultural bureau to investigate and track the inflows and outflows of cattle and beef products such as bones, skins, and organs uh, from as early as June 11th. So it's basically asking the agricultural bureau to track all the transactions and trafficking of cattle, live cattle, as well as beef and beef products uh, from June 11th to now. Now, today is August the 2nd. That's more than 7 weeks ago. So it seems that the outbreak has been going on for 7 weeks. Or else, why would the authorities ask them to go back to June 11th? And nothing has been done until now. So the Chinese authorities, no worry, everything's under our control narratives make people even more anxious. The situation can be, people think that the situation is more serious than official statements. And according to various social media posts, um, people are saying that there are between 80 to 90 cases of anthrax in the Yanggu County. And animals in multiple farms have been identified, because it's not like what the CCTV said. What the CCTV said actually contradicts with the local public health official, because they did acknowledge that the multiple farms that are affected. And one post said that 40 in one farm, 40 of the over 100 cows in one farm died, and the farmer didn't report it. And he processed the meat from the dead animals and froze them, but ran out of freezer space. So he sold the beef bones to stores in 2 other counties. Some people claim that there are human casualties. Online skepticism has been growing. The biggest concern is the potential illicit sale of infected beef. People have been telling each other not to buy beef or lamb for the time being. A cattle farmer from Litai Township confirmed that 4 or 5 days ago, local animal quarantine officials have advised against buying or selling cattle. So that has, they knew something was happening. So they told people not to buy or sell cattle. Now, the bacterium causing anthrax can form spores that are highly resistant to dryness, heat, ultraviolet light, and common chemical disinfectants. They can survive for long periods in soil. And animals typically contract the disease by ingesting spores from the soil while grazing, and they often die quickly. So here's my concern. In a normal situation, maybe the outbreak isn't, I mean, is manageable. But I think in the case of CCP, or the dysfunctional nature of local governments in China right now, I don't think the local authorities are capable of handling, backtracking, and investigating the transactions and traffic of all beef products and cattle in the past 7 weeks because, one, corruption, two, commercial interest and greed, and three, the lack of motivation to investigate, as their default intention is to cover up. So, they don't want to investigate, first of all. And second of all, they're incapable of tracking everything. Um, and then number three is they have a commercial interest not to investigate. So, and this is because the Chinese governments at the very local level have been paralyzed during COVID. I mean, they weren't effective in the first place. They're not like the smartest people in China, working for the government, right? And these people have the least sense of responsibility. So before COVID, they were already bad. And now they're just, they have this lie flat mentality and do nothing for 4 years. And now all of a sudden you want to tell them to, document and track every truckload of beef product and where it went, where it got sold, and who bought what, who ate what. I highly doubt it. So what they're going to do is cover it up and lie flat and pretend that there's nothing happening. But this is a tremendous public health risk, because anthrax bacterium can hide for a long time. I mean, they survive, like I said, they survive in these extreme conditions and environments, and they go with water, with air. So the fact that the beef might have been sold to other areas is a serious public health risk. So that's all I have for you right now. And this is new. So if I have other information, I'll let you know. But now let's talk about the status quo of local government officials, because it's, I mean, it's kind of related to the anthrax situation. Why I'm saying these officials are incapable of handling anything. So there has been a sex scandal that has rocked the nation, and the expression "I'm afraid you won't be able to resist" or "I'm afraid you won't be able to hold back" in Chinese is 我怕你忍不住. It has become a catchphrase in China. It was spoken by the party secretary of Shangfang Township in Wannian County. Her name is Li Peixia. No, actually, I have a picture of them. Here we go. Here we have our two protagonists. So the woman on the right is a party secretary of a township, and the man is the party secretary of a county, so another level up. So he is her superior. They're both party secretaries, and so she said those words when she was pushed by the guy, by her superior in the middle of the night, when the guy invited her to have a drink of tea, because he felt lonely. And Miss Lee said no, because she hasn't recovered physically from their previous, what do you say, date or tryst. A few days later, the two had a dispute, and the woman threatened to report her boss or her superior to the Provincial Commission for Discipline and Inspection. claiming she had audio evidence. 3 days later, not the man, but the woman was detained by the county, not the provincial, county commission for discipline inspection. However, the woman had been prepared. Before she was detained, she gave her father a flash drive with a note saying, here's the note, um, with a note saying, Dad, let me give you this flash drive containing information and audios. If one day I get into trouble, you should go to a different part of China to release them. Use your real identity to expose the perpetrator, and so on and so forth. So there were 8 audio recordings on this flash drive, and her father released 3. It was said that any father would find it difficult to listen to the conversations between his daughter and the man who she had sex with. From the 3 recordings released, it seems that Miss Lee sought to advance her career and wanted Mr. Mao's help. So here, yeah. So she wanted to move ahead with her career. She wants a promotion. And so she wants her promotion. She wants him to make it happen for her. The man desired her body. So they made a deal. The man is a pervert, and somehow a certain part of her body got hurt during their tryst. But she tolerated because she wanted a promotion. When he pushed her to do it again, she said she hasn't recovered. However, their relationship deteriorated when the guy promoted 5 other pretty women who worked under him or worked in the county, but not Miss Lee. She is angry and thus threatened to report him to higher authorities. And that's not the end of the story. So what did he do? Well, he called his guy in charge of discipline inspection, and they have this organization called Commission for Discipline and Inspection at the county level, at the provincial level, and at the central government level, right? So the fact that he is a party secretary at the county level, so he controls the guy in charge of discipline inspection. So he called this guy into his office and ordered him to take several actions against her. 1, revoke all of her positions from for serious disciplinary violations. So she's removed from all her positions. Number 2, arrest and interrogate her immediately for corruption. 3, confiscate her phones and computer to prevent information from being leaked. Number 4, detain her for several months until they actually find some misconduct on her behalf, on her part. Number 5, monitor her family and keep them under control so they wouldn't go somewhere to make noises. So as Ms. Lee has predicted, right, she has foreseen this coming, so she gave her flash drive to her dad. So her father, Mr. Lee, ran away to Guangdong and released 3 of the 8 recordings, saying that it could save her daughter's life. Because his daughter warned him not to do it in their own county. You have to go to other parts of China to do it for his safety. The recordings immediately became the talk of the nation. People were shocked to discover the depravity of the corruption and the perverted life of CCP officials. They couldn't believe that in this, party secretary versus party secretary fight, how ruthless their gangster-style administration has been or is. And then the Jiangxi provincial discipline inspection officials immediately went to Guangdong to meet with the dad. And the dad asked her, worried about his daughter's safety, so he asked to meet her, but he hasn't been able to. As a result, his online account has been blocked. And Miss Lee, his daughter's status remains unknown. Some netizens claim that she had died while in detention, but we cannot verify that. There are also claims that this woman, had also slept with other high-ranking officials to get herself ahead, promoted. And so all these officials are very well paid. They have drivers. They make a lot of money, and it seems that they indulge themselves in money and sex and do nothing for the people, based on these recordings. So the story gives us a realistic view of the status quo of the local Chinese government. By the way, there are 2,800 county-level party secretaries in China, like the guy Mao, and 44,000 township party secretaries, like Miss Li. So there's so many of them, and these are not isolated cases. Individuals like them are everywhere. So this case isn't about sexual harassment. It's about how corrupt the entire system and Chinese society have become. And today I saw this picture on the internet, and a woman holding a bag in a subway that says, "Secretary Mao," which is the guy, "I have time and I'm okay physically." This is in response to the recording in which the woman told the guy that she got hurt, So I don't know if this picture is real or not. I hope not. I hope someone, I don't know, but if it's true, it's very, very pathetic. Okay, so that's part 2 of my live stream. Let's talk about a brave young man who makes us proud for a change. Do you remember this man? His name is Peng Lifa. The Time magazine named him one of the 100 most influential people in the world in 2023. This is because in October 2022, Peng unfold 2 banners on the bridge of Beijing, Sitongqiao, calling the government to end zero COVID lockdowns, and also he called the ending of one-party authoritarian rule. He had a set of very particular slogans, like we want democracy, we want freedom. His action later inspired the White Paper movement in China, which ended zero COVID. Now, on July 30th, one of the young people who joined the White Paper movement followed his footstep and hung banners in Xinhua County, Hunan. So this is the young man. And he installed a loudspeaker that demanded freedom, democracy, and the right to vote. And a few days later, he recorded a short video telling people who he is and why he did it. It was only 1 minute long, and let me play that for you. And before the video, okay, so hold on. The first 15 seconds is the footage taken from the township where Anthrax had an outbreak, and it shows how people dressed up in these white gowns again and doing a disinfection. So this is the Anthrax part. I just want to show you. Oh, yeah, this is. I don't know if this was actually taken from the patients from the location who had anthrax. Okay, so this is the bridge. This is the banner this young man put up with a loudspeaker, and I put the subtitle there. In Hunan. You could barely hear the loudspeaker. And here's him giving the story of why he did this.
大家好，我叫方玉荣，是个参与过白纸运动的年轻人。去年夏天，我在 Tiny Ground 里发表支持民主的言论，而被国安部盯上。自此，国安部开始对我进行惨无人道的脑控迫害。 我现在发这个视频是为了证明，我已经不害怕他们了。暴政必然可怕，但权威压不垮人心。习近平再怎么迫害我们，也阻止不了民主的思想一次又一次的在中国人的心中生根发芽。长江之水不会倒流。我希望中国人能早日摆脱专制，过上更好的生活。做完这件事后，我可能会被精神病，也可能会死在监狱里，但是我不会后悔。
Okay, so that's the end of the video. He also posted. He wrote a long paragraph that kind of gave more details about his life. He said he's 22 years old and he participated in the white paper movement. And after the movement ended, he put up posters and expressed his views online against the CCP's tyranny. He has been persecuted by the police since last July. He described himself as a moderate leftist. He's not a rightist. He's a moderate leftist. But he lost his last glimpse of hope during zero COVID after the fire in Urumqi, which killed dozens of people, I think. And then from that moment on, he has been studying and thinking about how China can transition into a democracy. And during the time, and then since last July, he has been put under, I think, house arrest or detention, and he was mentally tortured. He changed his view. And during that time, I think he didn't say it, I think he was brainwashed. And he said during that time, he changed his view and became pro-CCP again. But the intense threat and the intense pressure on him, but the intense threat that he was subject to awoke him. He said he finally realized that no compromises should be made with the specter of the CCP. And he hopes people can tell his story to expose the atrocities of this evil party. He said he graduated from college in 2023 and is from Hunan. He said he's mentally healthy and will never commit suicide. That's just warning. If the regime says he committed suicide, that's murder. And he said the authorities are pressuring his parents. And he wrote this letter after months of torment. So yeah, those are the three events that I think will have tremendous impact on not just China, but all of us. Anthrax, right? The disintegration of the Chinese government at all levels, particularly the grassroots levels, and the awakening of the Chinese people. And I think these three events are highly significant in the next few months. So that's all for tonight. And let me see if people have questions for me. All right. Bob Hunter. Thank you, Bob. Thank you for your chat. Love from Scotland. Okay, good. Thank you, Bob. All right. Scotland. Well, it must be what? 3 o'clock in the morning? Yeah, 3 o'clock in the morning. Well, thank you for staying up late for me. Okay. If you have questions for me, put my name in the front so I know it's addressed to me. I know there are a lot of comments here. I actually love this camera because I don't have this continuity camera that's blocking my screen. But the resolution isn't as good. So I have to make a compromise between resolution or a good view. Okay. All right. I'm just picking some questions. All right. That seems to be all. No, I don't see questions. I don't see my name. Oh, here's one. Mitsu, have you heard of the White Rose Society in Nazi Germany and Sophie Scholl? The CCP reminds me of Nazi Germany at this time. I think CCP is worse than Nazi Germany, right? I mean, the Nazis are terrible because they persecuted the Jews. But the CCP is even worse because they not only persecute its people, but they lie about it and they made money from killing people. And that's just pure evil. They murder people and sold their organs for a profit. So they made money from the persecution. And how could we have allowed that to happen for so long? Lei, great hair. Thank you. It's messy. Savala, Lei, will you be watching the Taiwan versus China gold medal badminton match? I didn't. What time would it be? I haven't got any time to watch the Olympics. The two men, I mean, to summarize, the two men that dominated the Olympics. One is a man, the Turkish man who won the silver medal for what? Anyways, I haven't got time. I haven't really got time. Let's see. John S., will you consider discussing U.S. politics at times soon? Well, people have, my viewers, have told me not to get involved in U.S. politics. I don't know why. I mean, because people don't see me as an expert on U.S. politics, and but I will talk about it from the perspective of Chinese Americans and particularly Chinese immigrants. So I don't mind talking about it. I think it is what it is. I want to be honest with people. So I will be. And I think what's happening, I want to talk about, I almost talked about the impact of what's happening in Venezuela and Bangladesh has a huge impact on China. It also has a huge impact on the US. So all these events that are evolving in the past several months are very interesting. They're all interconnected. So I'm not shying away from that, although I don't try to make it a focused topic of my programs, because it's really not it's not my focus. But if it's related to China or the Chinese people or Chinese communities or Sino-US relations, I will address it in that capacity. Paul Levchuk. Quick question. What's the term limit of a CCP Congress? Like, when does 5 years? 5 years, theoretically, but they're not voted. I mean, Michael Harrington. Yes, please update on flooding, but you did such an amazing job on this video. I don't think I have any question. You left me with a lot of thinking. Good point, Lei. Okay, all right. Well, Jeff Ramos. Well, thank you, Jeff. Lei, international shipping for all the products or just the USA? Anthrax is the preferred bioweapon. International shipping for all the products or just US? I'm not quite sure what that question is. Anthrax is the preferred bioweapon. I can't really, I mean, preferred by who? I don't prefer any. I mean, I think no bioweapons are good. So the preferences of bioweapons is a dreadful idea. As far as does the CCP prefer anthrax as a bioweapon? I mean, who knows? All I can say is before COVID, it is the number one disease associated with a bioweapon. That's before COVID. But not everyone agrees that COVID is a bioweapon. So if we remove COVID, then anthrax is still the number one disease affiliated with bioweapon for the reasons I gave you in the beginning. So now will the CCP use that? Well, I mean, it's paying the price for it. I mean, if, I mean, I don't know, but I think if the outbreak in Shandong will hurt the Chinese first more than anyone else. So what's the advantage of using that against others when your people are the first, to sacrifice or the first to suffer? So I don't understand the logic of preferring that. So I can't really answer that question. But when I saw the outbreak of anthrax and how strongly people reacted, I mean, there were anthrax outbreak in 2021 in China. I mean, sporadic outbreak, I mean, it was constant throughout the world, in animals, in farm animals. It's not like a deadly disease that, that spread, that become a pandemic. But judging by the amount of reaction people had to the outbreak in Shandong made me think that it's not an isolated case of just a farm or a few farms that had a bad outbreak. So that's what I think it's worth mentioning here. That's what I want to tell you about it tonight. Okay, well, Mitsu, I used to think bioweapons would at least just kill off humans, but not animals. I was so wrong. Wants to cry as a number of animals caught COVID-19. Yeah. And maybe vegetables too. How do we know vegetables weren't affected? Right? I mean, vegetables may be contaminated, and when we eat the contaminated vegetables, I don't know. I just think the world is becoming more dangerous. Okay, question. Is CCP financially strong or weak? How could it be financially strong? It's financially weak, but its tolerance to let its people suffer is much higher, is abnormally high. So it's not afraid to suffer as a nation financially, as long as the top leaders don't suffer. So by our standard, China's economy is unbearably miserable. But from their leaders' perspective, it's okay because they think people's tolerance, they think poverty isn't a bad thing for its people, as long as they have ways or means to enforce social stability. Don't eat vegetables. Somebody said, I joined CCP. Okay. All right. Sammy Giacana. I heard she remonstrated thousands of mid and low level, where did it go? Officials for lying flat. He told them to do something and stop just eating all day. Have you heard this story? Yeah. I mean, this has been a problem for him for years. So he's been trying to deal with that for years, but it's impossible for people to do something. I talked about that in my last live stream. 3 reasons why officials refuse to do anything. Number 1, they don't know what to do because they're trying to figure out what is the right thing to do to please Xi Jinping. And then they can't figure it out because they see, the misfortune of former foreign minister Qin Gang, right? When he was such a close associate of Xi Jinping, and then he probably misjudged the big boss's intention and then fell. So people feel like, well, I don't know what I can do to make the big boss happy, so therefore I'm not doing anything. And then the second type is, people who disagree with Xi Jinping and who want to resist by doing nothing. And then the third type is people who have done a lot and all of a sudden realize everything they've done become a burden, become a liability Because the more you do, the more chances you have to make mistakes or something that went wrong, and then people will, even though you had good intentions, but your actions, your previous actions, can all come back to haunt you. So people are scared; they don't do anything. So for those three reasons, how can Xi Jinping motivate his officials to not lie flat? It's impossible. Okay, all right. I think I answered all the questions. Robert Klotz. Norbert, not Robert, Norbert. Hello, Norbert. Can you do a program in Chinese for all of the American people who do not know what is going on? Can you do a program in Chinese? If I do a program in Chinese, how can all the Americans who do not know what's going on understand me? Are you suggesting I'm doing a program in Chinese language? But if I do that, only the Chinese people can understand me, not Americans. Am I misunderstanding your question? I'm sorry. Maybe it's not typed. Dallas Clark, howdy, Lay. Has the youth unemployment gone away? No, it has been worsened. Or has the CCP started to enlist anyone who complains? The CCP has been enlisting people, young people from rural area, because these people have a less of a chance to survive in society, and then they don't want to return to the countryside because the situation in rural China is more dire. And so, and actually, in some we've seen official decrees that ordered young graduates from college graduates from rural China to be enlisted. It may be a formal mandate in some parts of China. That is the case. Yeah. Question from Vahelm Sowers. International countries seem to think that China is going to invade Taiwan, but nobody's asking Taiwan. Nobody's asking Taiwan. What do you mean nobody's asking Taiwan? Asking Taiwan if China is going to invade? I think the Taiwanese is more aware of this than anyone else. But on the other hand, this has been going on for at least decades, right? I mean, the small island has always been threatened by the presence of a communist regime so close to them, and then the CCP has always expressed interest in taking over the island. So on one hand, they're more aware than anyone else. On the other hand, they have become immune to it because it's already part of their everyday life, you know. So they're already used to it. They have been living with that kind of imminent threat so close to them for the past decades. So in a way, it's nothing new, nothing special to them anymore. I don't know if I answered your question. And so that's the feeling you get when you talk to people in Taiwan. Logician 3, half of China is flooded. It gets worse every year. Yes, you're right. The ecological balance in China is completely destroyed. I mean, one of the direct results is the loss of farmland. China heavily relies on import for food because they're losing arable land. They're also losing the labor that work, farming laborers. They're losing that. So yeah, that's a serious situation. Moonwalker, are you aware that Olympic officials ripped away banners that cheered for Taiwan during badminton match? It was crazy and caught on TV. Yes, I saw that. Yep. Yeah, I try not to talk about the same thing that you guys are already aware. If I see it's everywhere in Western media or Western social media, then I try not to talk about it because you guys already know. But on the other hand, it hurts my algorithm because only by talking about popular topics would YouTube, uh, you know, push my content. But I think then if I do that too much, I'm thinking for myself. If I think for you guys, I would think, well, what's relevant, right? What matters to you? I mean, if you spend 30 minutes, 40 minutes with me, I want to give you the most information that you can't get anywhere else. If I'm telling you the same thing that you already know from somewhere else, then I think I'm wasting your time. Uh, so so I have a very different mentality from other YouTubers. I mean, most YouTubers would talk about what's trending, uh, but I think I value my viewers uh, more than my growth, I guess, because you have to give people a good quality. You have to give people value when they watch you. That's my opinion. Ed C, do you think it's a slap in the face to Taiwan that the Olympics calls them Taiwan China? I think it's already better. I mean, people were surprised. I mean, people had well, at least, for the Chinese Americans, a lot of us who care about Taiwan felt a sense of relief that they didn't put Taiwan together with China. They put under T, alphabetically, it's T, it's Taiwan. Um, Taipei, China? I think it's Taiwan. No, it's not Taipei, China. It's Taiwan. No? Was it Taipei? I thought it's Taiwan, China. If it's Taipei, China, I would be disappointed. If it's Taiwan, China, I think it's better. So we need to clarify that. But the Olympic, the IOC is so corrupt. I mean, what can I say, right? I mean, all right. Let's see. Wasama Wungsurawa. Lei, when will the CCP run out of money to buy out Southeast Asian media? In Thailand, there's absolutely nothing bad about China in the media. Good question. It depends on how well China's money. China's money come from the West, because it still relies on export. As long as the West continues to buy Chinese product, the CCP will have money. So you need to ask this question to the West, to Western democratic country, to the politicians. When will you actually decouple? And also, it's a question to us consumers. Let's say iPhones are not made in China. Let's say iPhones are made elsewhere, and they become more expensive. Are we willing to pay for a more expensive iPhone if the world decouples with the CCP? So that's a question to all of us, and we can be on one hand saying, uh, we need to decouple with China. On the other hand, we love all these cheap Chinese products. Um, Personally, I think the fact that iPhone has a newer model every year is crazy. I mean, who is going to have the money to upgrade? I mean, the iPhone is $1,000 device. I mean, they should expect people to use it for at least 3 to 5 years. The fact that they have a new model coming up every year is unthinkable. Um, and the reason they're able to do that is because of the cheap labor in China, because China makes the bulk of the iPhones before. So I don't mind paying more for an iPhone if it lasts much longer. They should have newer generations. They should have upgrades less frequently, offer better product, expect people to use it longer, have better quality, and not have them made in China. But it's not a question that these company executives are ready to make. It's a question that we consumers all have to make. But I just think the fact that they have a newer iPhone coming out every year is crazy. Um, it's a waste of resources. What are we going to do with all these? On one hand, we're talking about the green initiatives. On the other hand, we're creating all these gadgets that we have a hard time getting rid of. Why? Right? So if when the world is ready to decouple with China, then the CCP will not have the money. I mean, economically, the CCP will not have the money to buy out Southeast Asian media, because its money come from the West, come from Europe, and come from countries like Australia, China, United States, and Canada. So that's today's globalization. All right. Judy Gilmore, another wonderful show. Thank you. I wonder how the Chinese people can overcome their evil government when there are so many obstacles against them making any progress. You wonder how the Chinese people, they will. Take a look at that young man. I mean, it's admirable. At 22, last year, when white paper movement came out, he was only 20. So at such a young age, he's so clear-minded. I mean, living in that, I mean, he doesn't have access to internet the way we do. His information is censored. It's purely based on his own instinct and thinking. He has come to the understanding. So it's very, very difficult, and it's very admirable. And he even admitted that he went back to his old thinking. He went back to during the few months that he was detained, or he was mentally tortured or persecuted. I think they forced him to watch propaganda. They brainwashed him again during that time. And so he said he went back to pro CCP again. But then what woke him up was the intense threat, pressure that finally woke him up. And he said, I finally realized that you cannot make compromises with the devil. He said a specter. I mean, I don't know how to translate. I should say devil. You should never compromise with the devil. That's what he finally understood. And then he, brought himself to that bridge and put up the banners. He wrote the letter. He recorded the video. He said he's not afraid, to die in a prison, as long as people will have a better future. I think he's only 22. What do most people at 22 think about here? I mean, so I think there are many young people like him. So I'm hopeful. So, all right. Jay Litka. The fellow asking about programming Chinese will be an additional program for Chinese speakers, one for English and one for Chinese. Oh, you're saying making a program in Chinese language for Chinese about China or about the US? Well, there are a lot of Chinese. What I have found, there are a lot of in-language programs offered to Chinese. There are many of them out there. Like there's several media outlets. There are a lot of them on YouTube. Some of them are very good, like Wen Zhao. He's from Canada. He has 1 million subscriber. So there are a lot of. There's not a shortage of Chinese speaking up to Chinese people in their own language. But there aren't that many Chinese speaking to the Western audience in English. So that's why I choose to do that in English. And I think it's equally important. Of course, I could do a Chinese program, but but there are a lot of people doing that already. All the dissidents, the pro-democracy people, they most of them have some kind of a YouTube program or social media profile that they talk about it or write about it, and Chinese can follow them. But there aren't many Chinese do China coverage in English, so that's why I choose to do that, to do English programming. So I just want to tell you what I do. It's Taipei. Okay, well then that's disappointing. It's disappointing. The IOC is, oh, what can I say? I think the IOC is has been infiltrated by the CCP. All right, let's see. Haley, more Pooh Bear thumbnails, please. You guys love my last thumbnail? I couldn't stop laughing when I look at it. It was just so so funny. But people are telling me you really, because Pooh Pooh Bear is adorable, but the Chinese leader isn't that adorable. So I think it's doing a disservice to Pooh Bear, right? I don't know. Norbert Klotz, have you ever considered to do a chat in Chinese language? I already answered that question. Not really. Not really. Silas, Lei, I used them for 4 to 5 years, but every year, always people on different schedules to get same benefits of newest elections and cameras. Use what for 4 to 5 years? I'm sorry, I missed that. All right, I think, am I getting the bottom of the questions? All right, Norbert. Oh, here's the great thing is to cultivate the two countries talk the same about the same subjects in English and Chinese. The topics are very different. If I do this program in Chinese, it would be very different, because the Chinese are interested in knowing. I will have to talk about America, because the Chinese are interested in knowing. I mean, they already know a lot of. For me to tell them about, they want to know what's happening in the rest of the world. They want to know what the world is saying about their leader, their country, right, and their economy. So it's a different perspective. So it would not be the same content if I do it in Chinese language, because their interest and your interests are not the same. Pooh and Tigger laughing out loud. Nick Fury, CCP final ambition is to own and control the whole world. Can they succeed? The question is, will we allow them to succeed? If we allow them to succeed, they will. If we don't, they won't. They're not as powerful as they appear to be. So, and sometimes we criticize our politicians, because they don't show strength in front of the CCP. But then I think it's in everybody's mindset. If we have so much fear in our heart and think that the future is so pessimistic, then the future is pessimistic. I think our mind has power. So if we don't allow that to happen, it won't happen. And I don't think it will happen. There's no way the CCP will control the world. I just don't think how it will happen. Okay, well, this one, QRPPDC. I would like to know both the Chinese men on the street and the educated upper class. Think about American politics. Oh, okay, that's interesting. Thank you for everything. That's very interesting. Uh, I should do a program on that. You'll be surprised because the Chinese are socially conservative. The Chinese are socially conservative, and the Taiwanese are socially progressive. The mainland Chinese are socially conservative, but the Taiwanese, like the DPP, Democratic Progressive Party, is socially progressive. So how they look at the U.S. politics is a very interesting subject. I will keep that in mind. I'll work on that. I'll get back to you because it's also of interest to me as well. All right, Deborah Banerjee, please stay with what you're doing. No one is doing this your way. I will. I know. I know there are not a lot of people doing what I do. I hope there are more. Happy Friday. Well said, Fearley. Okay, so it's getting late, and thank you for joining me. It's Saturday night or Sunday morning. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I'll see you next week. All right, stay well. Bye-bye.